On Answers for Living today, we want to look at some evidences that help us believe that with conviction, that Jesus is God in the flesh. That the person, Jesus, who died on the cross at the hands of the Romans, was truly God. And here are some reasons we believe. 1, he had an unusual conception. Back in Genesis 3, Adam and Eve had sinned. God takes Eve aside and the serpent is Satan, and he says to them, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise you on the head, and you will bruise him on the heel. Now, the natural process of conception involves a woman's egg and a male's sperm, and the sperm is called the seed. But God says to Satan that he would be defeated by the seed of the woman. Then, 700 years later, the prophet Isaiah writes this, Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child and bear a son, and he will be called Emmanuel. Virgins do not conceive. Conception requires a male and a female both providing half of the genetic information to produce one complete cell that becomes a baby. So God is announcing that in the virgin's womb will be a child of divine origin. Historically, we know that people knew Joseph wasn't Jesus' biological son, so they called Jesus the son of Mary. If they knew he was the father, they would have called Jesus the son of Joseph. They didn't. They called him the son of Mary. People who knew Mary and Joseph and Jesus considered Jesus an illegitimate child. No one can prove a miraculous conception. But since the beginning of the writings of Scripture, for 1,500 years, the Scriptures told us that the Messiah, the Son of God, would have a miraculous conception. Now, second, his miracles also are evidence that Jesus was God's Son. Jesus says, even though you will not believe me, believe the miracles, that you may know and understand that the Father is in me and I in the Father. He also said, the very work that the Father has given me to finish, and which I'm doing, testifies that the Father has sent me. So Jesus clearly intended the miracles that he did to validate his deity. John writes and says this, Therefore many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence of the disciples, which are not listed in this book. But these have been written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. So John is saying the miracles that Jesus did, no ordinary man could do. He had to be God himself. Who else could have calmed the raging storm by saying, peace? Who else could make a mute man speak? Who else could feed 5,000 men and their wives and their children with 5 biscuits and 2 fishes? Who else could walk on water? Who else could give sight to the blind who had never seen? Who else could heal the paralyzed man who hadn't walked for 38 years? Who else could turn leper skin into brand new skin? Who else could turn water into wine? Jesus says, at least believe because of what you have seen me do. The evidences we have briefly looked at will help us believe with conviction Jesus is God.